Hey, Redcasters, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Go Big Red. Rhule was asked about recruiting. So this kind of transitions us kind of to the end of it. And he was talked about recruiting, talked about in-state and the success that we've had with in-state kids. I thought this was a really good answer that he gave.
I was out of work when I took this job, right? So I had some time. And so in between, like, driving my kids to school and pickups and all that, I spent a lot of time looking at recruits. And Evan Cooper, who's on my staff, who's really been my recruiting guy, right-hand guy all along, we watched not just the kids that were committed to Nebraska. We watched the 2023 class that was still out there. We watched the 2024s, the 2025s. And what I saw was, you know what? There's a lot of talent in Nebraska. And even this year, like we had 3,000 kids come through our camps. Like we wanted to reinvigorate the camps. So everyone from third grade all the way up through seniors in high school. And guys came to our camps, from small towns all across the state that maybe weren't on our radar, but they certainly are now. And so that was all intentional. And that was part of the reason why we took the job. Because if you're strong at home, if there's talent coming from Nebraska, then you're going to win.
What I love about that right there is I like how he started talking about it. He started talking about how when he first looked at this job, not even took it, it goes back to the 2-month coaching search. And I think if anything, if we're going to have success under him, and especially in any early kind of success, that 70-day search where he had every opportunity to look at this program, to not take it, to study every ounce of this. I mean, he took this job running. And I think so much of that was because of those first 60 days. And then the first 60 days of just talking with Trev and really being on the same page with him and knowing how important it was to go after in-state kids. They bring in 3,000 kids to camps. Yeah. And I mean, think about that with the camps right there. I mean, that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. And just after watching him work these last 8 months, you get the idea that this guy doesn't leave a lot of stones unturned. So if he had this time to actually be looking at recruits and looking at programs, it was a calculated decision to come to Nebraska. But he mentioned something in one of the breakout sessions. I don't think we have video for that. No big deal. I didn't contribute. It's not Honky's fault. But he talked about running the camps. He said June was hard. June was really hard. If y'all remember, we had a bunch of recruits throughout the month committed at the month, and they had official visits and camps and then official visits and this and that. But he made a point to say that his coaches and himself work those camps. They make sure they're present. They want to evaluate. They want to see the guys. It's not the Nebraska camp. Here are all our grad assistants running it. Yeah. The coaches are out there actively looking for talent, which again, whoever knows any like high school talent throughout Nebraska, whoever listens to our podcast, let them know. Like to get in front of these coaches' eyes, they're looking for you. And to me, that's awesome. Like, because everybody knows about the Metro, and you get the stragglers out west, but there's probably other guys out there.
Well, when we've had Glenn Snodgrass on, I mean, he'd say the exact same thing. And in fact, we need to get him on the next couple of weeks.
100%.
Especially if he can get into a practice there, it'd be kind of cool to get his updated thoughts. But exactly, he said that. Get out in front of these coaches. They want to talk with you.
It's not a big stretch. Listen, all we grow right now in Nebraska seems to be tight ends, but it isn't much of a stretch to add a few pounds on that tight end, make him a D end. Well, and just get him out there.
And actually think of what we've done in state. When you talk about in-state talent, we've now had 2 straight years where we've had a quarterback make it to the Elite 11, and then this year with Kalen actually make the Elite 11. Since they bring in like 22 guys and you have to make the top 10. Well,
it's almost not even that big of news. It's kind of crazy.
We've had quarterbacks go. Look at the receivers that we've now have been coming out, especially down there at Bellevue West. We're going to have 3 guys from Bellevue West alone that are receivers. I mean, these are position groups that are not traditionally what you consider the in-state guys. Jalen Lloyd a year ago from West Side, speedster guys. And so there's skill position guys in addition to the fullbacks, in addition to the tight ends, in addition to the offense and defense alignment. I mean, we've got some real players in this state that can play. Actually, if there's one spot that I'd like to see us go back to a little bit is running back. Back in the day when we had the Omaha Central connection. Boy, what I wouldn't give to see, one or two of those guys.
I think the running back position is just so much lost its shine that these young players don't think of it as
okay. I know where you're going with this. How about this? Flip it. Remember how high schools follow what Nebraska does, in-state high schools do. And so when we went to the spread or when we went to West Coast offense and under Callahan, that trickles its way down to the high schools. if this coaching staff is going to get understanding, we're going to have I formations, we're going to have I backs, not just running backs, I backs, essentially. Does that start to trickle back down into the high schools to where maybe that position? Because you're absolutely right. We've kind of lost that running back here because it's kind of been lost.
Right.
You know,
maybe some of the
nationally.
wide receivers we had could have been running backs. I love your brain. I love how it works. I was gonna bring up the same thing that people may not realize, especially younger people that listen to our show, and I'm sure there's many of you. When Nebraska was clicking in the 90s, the offense they were running permeated throughout the state, which created kind of a pipeline of itself into the state. The key to that, though, is the program kind of needs to be winning. You know, it helps if they're winning. And if what you're talking about does transgress and we do start winning, you will start seeing these teams and throughout the Nebraska, Western Nebraska, and even some of the metro schools, I guarantee, start running more of that style because these coaches also want to get their players to Nebraska. You know, it's a big feather in their cap too. So it's you want to feed that cycle, and I would love that so much because the style of football, whatever, but it's the winning too. It's the relevance. These young kids, it's right, wrong, and different. Social media is what moves their needle, and Nebraska does have a strong social media presence, but we don't have a lot of winning presence right now, and that's what I think they're looking at.
We've got to win.